Before I start, how many people here, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just curious, how many people that are here that actually live in Baltimore? Oh, great. That's great. That's fabulous. More than I thought. So, okay, so I'll tell you, and how many people were here the last time I was here and have some memory of some of the things that I talked about before? Okay, so I'll start out by giving you a little bit of a progress report on some of the things that we've accomplished, some of the things that we're trying to accomplish, some of the challenges that we have, and the biggest challenge that I have is I have to temper my expectations based on time, and I would like everything to be done really, really, really fast, and because of the city's administrative processes, it often takes quite a bit of time to go through them to achieve an objective that you want to achieve. So it takes us a long time to buy things, it takes us a long time to hire people, and it takes us a long time to gain, most importantly, it takes us a long time to gain consensus from stakeholders on initiatives that we want to start. So last time I was here, I talked to you about the state of our infrastructure, and we've had an ongoing assessment going on to improve the performance and the architecture of the city's network, including our, I think, 54, 55 miles of fiber that we have, and all the other components of the city's network. We're increasing the bandwidth and the capacity of it, and we're preparing it for the eventual adoption of some sort of voice over IP solution that eventually will be used instead of the city's current phone system. The mainframe, and there's nothing inherently wrong with mainframes. They were designed for high availability, and ours certainly has achieved that over the 20 years of its lifespan. We're working very aggressively to come up with a plan to get the 44 or 45 legacy applications off of the mainframe and onto something else. And some of them are a lot more important than I thought. For example, the sheriff's office in Baltimore has what's called the records management system, and that is completely mainframe based. So it's pretty important that we give them a path forward, because what we currently have doesn't support the capacity of a very, very busy office. They, in addition to doing things like processing movement of prisoners, they also actually have a division that does arrests and road stops. So they're a very busy office, busier than any other sheriff's department in the state of Maryland. So there's that. Some below the, what I call below the line activities that are terribly important to me. We're instituting a couple of management practices, one which is called technology business management, and that's, as its name implies, where we take technology and run it like a business, where we aggregate all of the costs that we have, and typically in most places you want to have about 70% operational costs, 20% investments in new expenditures, and about 10% set aside for innovative things. And right now in the city, we're really probably at about 95% for operational things and about 5% for investments in new things. So given the fact that we're not going to be able to go out and raise a whole lot of money for new technology expenditures, it's really important that we look at everything that we're doing and try to squeeze savings out of that, and then we use those savings to invest in new things. And we've hired a couple of people who are very good at that type of analysis. We've also, we're in the process of buying a couple of tools that are also used to facilitate that type of analysis. And really next year, right now the city spends probably about $40 million altogether on technology. And if we're judicious and we're careful, we should be able to squeeze about $6 to $7 million a year out of that to invest in new things. That's a very small number. Extremely small. About 1/3 the amount that Washington, D.C. spends on technology, about 1/4 what Howard County spends on technology. Very, very, very low number. Very low number. So eventually we hope to gain consensus to bring that number up to about 1% of the city's general fund, which I believe is $5 billion. So 1% would be a good increase for us. Hiring people. We've hired about 10 new people, and that has been just pretty fantastic, because the most important thing that I want to try to do is instill a new culture in both my department and IT for the city as a whole. We don't really want, and not that we have, but a long time ago the idea of IT people were people that didn't have really good social skills, that worked in the basement, that spent a lot of time on really operational things and didn't spend a whole lot of time analyzing solutions and on implementation and listening to people. So we brought in people that have very, very good customer-facing skills, and that will allow me to pivot towards one of the focus areas that I want to have for MOIT, and that's what I call expert-level consulting. And expert-level consulting is where we go into a city agency or a quasi-agency, and we parachute in and we do an assessment of the current IT infrastructure and of their applications and of basically everything, their telecom, everything. And we lay out a plan for improvement, and we identify some low-hanging fruit, and we really quickly adopt the low-hanging fruit and implement a new governance model and help them restaff if that's necessary. So we're in the middle of doing that for 3 different Baltimore City agencies, and eventually we'll do it for everybody. And before I arrived, we had actually done it for the city as a whole. That effort was put on hold when I came, but we're resuming doing that for the city as a whole. We want to trim our mission. We were doing a whole bunch of things. Some of them were silly things. Some of them were wastes of time. Some of them were wastes of money. So we want to focus on high-value activities, data, project management, networks, messaging, investment analysis, public engagement, and bridging the digital divide. Those are going to be our focus areas. Some of the other things, highly commoditized things like application support and some forms of development, are things that we're going to completely outsource or stop doing in favor of buying packaged solutions. Right now, there's a very, very, very low skill base in project management in the city, and it's been one of my highest priorities to hire project managers. Highest priorities to hire people that can guide the city through structured analysis of technology investments, understand how to start something, understand and manage risk, understand and manage calculating the return on investment, either a 3 or 5 year basis, and the different ways that you do that. And also manage stakeholders and try to build consensus around things. So the only way that we're going to get ahead, it's both a strength in Baltimore and a weakness, is that people find ways to sort of metaphorically get change from underneath the couch to launch projects, but what happens is those projects become stovepipes, and here we are with just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of disconnected applications that don't talk to each other, and many, many paper-based processes that are sort of ripe for automation and automated in other cities and other jurisdictions. So trying to simplify our infrastructure, trying to simplify our application portfolio to really make MOIT and the city's technology team as a whole the smartest people in the room, the best performers in the room, the best listeners in the room, the people who look forward and see the future 5 years or 10 years ahead, and trying to make our infrastructure as future-proof as possible, and taking a very, very hard look at some of the things we do and saying, should we really be doing this? Is this something that needs to be done by a city employee? Is this something that can be outsourced? Do we need to do it at all? Those are the really ongoing activities that I have. And like any place that's underinvested in technology, we have about a crisis a week of things that break and things that are falling apart or something that didn't work that we have to get involved in and fix. And we're becoming very adept at isolating those crises from the long-term, high-value work that we're trying to do. So, what do we need? I'll make an observation, and it's I don't know how to say this, and hopefully it won't appear to be a slam against my adopted hometown. There are a number of people that really like the status quo the way it is. It's benefited them monetarily, it's benefited them politically, it's benefited them in a lot of ways. And trying to change that is really, really, really hard. And when we take things that are in any other city, really highly commoditized things and to actually take them out of that realm. We try to just look at them from a numbers perspective and from a strategic perspective. That makes a lot of people really uncomfortable. And we have to keep going. The mayor this is part of what the mayor is doing with everything. This is what other department heads are doing with everything. We have a new police commissioner. He's doing the same thing. We have our fire chief, who's been constantly doing this in the 5 years that he's been here. Our director of transportation is doing the same thing. So it's tough. It's really, really tough. And there's going to be a lot of hurt feelings along the way. There's going to be a lot of controversy along the way. And we want to try to adopt best practices. We want to be more like other places rather than some place that does things the way they were done 60 or 70 years ago, or some place that does things unlike any place else, some place that acquires goods and services in a way that's unlike any other. So that's the place that I'm trying to get to. What I would hope that I could achieve from talking to a room full of people like this is sort of expert level analysis of where we're going, where we should go, what gaps people perceive in the city's technological offerings, either in terms of e-government or public engagement or just other observations that people have. And I know I don't know everything, so I've never done everything. I never will know everything. And it's very important to me that people have a sense of ownership of this and that they have a way of giving me input. So that is, at a really high level, a lot of the things that we're working on, really high level. I'm going to stop now and give all of you a chance to ask me any questions that you want to ask.
Great. We got 2 mics, so that way I can prevent myself from running around too much. So if you want to, there's a mic in the back. If you want to queue up for that, if you want to here. Let me start, and I'm going to do my best to pass this around as well. Is that I come from Boston, which is a pretty well-established IT infrastructure, and I got to say, when I was up there the whole time, not that I really paid too much attention to it, but I never really noticed many city-related IT issues coming up in the press. But the funny thing is, in the last 12 months, it's like I keep reading about all the IT-related things here in Baltimore City. It's like the water bill issue, the speeding camera issues, the voice over IP phone issues, and it seems kind of strange that it's like popular news that some random person who doesn't care is going to read about the water bill or speed. But why are these? Why do these issues come up so seemingly frequently for Baltimore City?
The water bill issue. Well, I'll answer all 3 of those questions. So the water billing system is quite old. I think it was finished in 1983 or 1984. So it's pretty old. Events have overtaken its usefulness. Budget cuts have kind of caused the people who supported it to drift away. But the water billing system is only the end piece in a chain of data gathering activities that occur in order for you to get an accurate water bill. There has to be readings. There has to be, in a lot of cases, there are estimates. And those things have to be correct. And if those things are not correct, then you're going to have a problem with your water bill. If there's a leak, you're going to have a problem with the water bill. And because our system is so old, and only recently in the last few months we've gotten to a point where we can take the data out of the legacy billing system and we've now put it into a data warehouse so that we can analyze it and we'll be able to see really high bills that might indicate that there's a leak, or really high bills that might indicate that there's an issue with the read process. And my staff, along with DPW's IT staff and with the DPW meter reading, kind of formed a little working group to really do a deep dive into that whole process, and they did a fantastic job of understanding where the errors are. Some of these things are fairly straightforward to fix. Others are going to have to wait for a new water billing system, and we're in the process of acquiring a new water billing system. That's a very, very high dollar project. And it's going to be a while before we get a new one and before it's implemented, probably about 18 months. So, and that goes hand in hand with the new meter project that's going on, where everybody gets smart meters. So those 2 things are going to happen at about the same time. That will give everybody a great opportunity to actually see their water consumption, to conserve it, to see a year's worth of bills, to download their bills, to print their bills, and to sort of make sure that they're getting what they need in terms of information about their water use and their billing. What happened? What happened was neglect and a little bit of instability in the management of both the Water Bureau and MOIT. But the head of the Water Bureau and my office are working as fast as we can to implement a new water billing system. And the direction that we're going down, I think, is a pretty exciting one. It's exciting as water billing can be, but I think it'll be really exciting for people that have those problems to get correct bills and to be able to see that, and for us to have this billing data warehouse. It moves us farther down the path towards having a smart infrastructure where we can see if something is going to happen and try to predict that and maintain it a lot more effectively. So that's the water billing system. The speed camera system, so like a lot of cities, that's outsourced to ACS, which is a division of Xerox, and it was outsourced to ACS for a long time. I can't speak to why that one car got a ticket when it was stopped. I will say this: I myself have received several tickets, and I know I was speeding, so I'm in use case for accurate tickets. But again, the city has been very proactively. We switched to a new vendor. I don't remember the name of the new vendor. That's not so much an IT thing as it is a contract oversight issue. The IT part of that is us managing the payments to the city's finance department. But the contractor has to certify and ensure that the cameras are working the way they're supposed to be working. So, I'm hopeful, and I'm not really involved in this that much, but I'm hopeful that since we switched to a new contractor and since so much attention is being paid to this by really the smartest people in the city right now, that this will be resolved fairly quickly.
Okay.
What was the third thing?
Oh, it was about the voice over IP issue. But...
So the voice over IP issue, which is consumes way more news attention than it really should, is a great example of a breakdown in governance. A great example of a breakdown in governance. You've got one group of people over here that historically has delivered a service that is telephones, moves, adds, and changes, and billing. You've got another group of people over here that runs the city's network and does complex application support. Then you have this project that is really an IT project and entails a very large portfolio of new software that has to be implemented and supported. But the question that I have is, some of these things are really big. Do we, in this day and age, is it really a good idea for the city to be in the phone business? Should we do something different? Is there a cloud-based solution that would work better for us? What are we really doing? How many people really use their desk phone? I hardly ever use mine. The only time I use mine is when my secretary tells me that somebody is waiting for me. The rest of the time I use a mobile device. So to what extent do we want to invest in a declining technology? And how should that work? So this is a struggle. It's a struggle that will probably be resolved fairly soon. But it really, it sort of exemplifies some of the issues that we're having in the whole and trying to modernize and having people really like one status quo and having a hard time convincing people that there may or may not be a better way, and that better way could be something that nobody has imagined yet. So those three things are I think that answers your question.
Yeah, and I got lots of questions. So, and when you speak, you can stand up, and then we're going to record this stuff.
You mentioned purchasing an application to help you with your purchasing processes, and I spoke with Stephen Elkins, the City of Austin CIO, and they just purchased something this year. So if you'd like, I can make a connection. I'm not sure how far down the line you are with that purchase and what products you're looking at, but it might be helpful to talk to another CIO who just went through that, who's implementing it, and is that something that you're looking at right now? You mentioned.
Well, we have implemented a project portfolio management tool called Innotas, and that's very good, and that's really going to help us get ourselves organized. But then on the flip side of that, there's our technology business management analytical tool, and we've evaluated, there are 3 players in that space, and we've evaluated them, and we picked the one that we think is the best, that works the best for us and gives us the kind of insights that we need and the kind of reporting that we need to provide to everybody. So we're pretty far down the path of that process right now, and I'm a member of a number of professional trade groups, and I talk to people all the time. So that's a very good suggestion, and it's something that I regularly do. Dirty little secret about me is I'm not terribly creative or innovative. I always look and see what somebody else has done that's worked, and then try to go there first.
I think that's a really good product. And then, are you familiar with NIC USA?
I'm sorry?
Are you familiar with NIC USA? They're an organization that helps states and local government with self-funding projects. So I can also make that introduction. They're here in Maryland, and they're doing the Maryland SharePoint site right now, but that might be helpful for you with your budget.
That'd be great. I have Daniel who's with me, and afterwards you guys can talk, and that would be great.
Great, we have one up there.
Hi, my name is Jessie Newbern. I'm from Howard County. Run a website, a small site called HOCO Blogs, Community Technology. That's my orientation. And just came from working inside of sort of a quasi-governmental organization, the Columbia Association, that has a lot of city-based issues, and a lot of under disinvestment in technology. And when I'm listening to you, I don't have a question. I just want to say that I come to a lot of these events not because I'm a technologist at all, but because I believe genuinely, and have for a number of years, that the true leaders of our time are really the technologists and the people who are solving the problems that are complex and sophisticated and detailed and onerous, and that don't have a lot of grandiose, there's just not a lot of celebration of the solutions. And in listening to you, I just, as someone who does live in Howard County, that does pay 4 times more for technology, or whatever you said, in terms of, we have a very technology-rich government and a community that believes in that. But listening to you speak, I just really feel like Baltimore was very lucky to get you in the right man for the right time, in the right job. And that as a neighbor community, that I'm just happy to be, in your outflow of the kinds of, and being very curious to see how you guys solve solutions, how you solve problems, what kinds of things you do with technology, and how you really can make Baltimore rock all that much more with a good technological base.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. And we work very closely with the Howard County IT department, and the Howard County CIO is a true visionary. His name is Ira Levy. He's really a pretty fantastic person. Any time that I get to spend in his presence is wonderful and very educational and kind of invigorating for me. So one of the things that we're doing is we're part of something called the ICBN, Inter-County Broadband Network. And once that's finished, quite a few opportunities, really creative opportunities for sharing data and sharing other things are going to present themselves. And we're really happy that we're a part of that. I wish that I had been here a little bit earlier so we could have taken a little bit more part in that than we are right now. But I look to the people in the region to help me. I look towards the people in Baltimore County for help with things. We're doing something with them that's very significant. We're going to have a backup 911 center in their backup 911 center on Gilroy Road. There's a number of things that we're doing with them. So I look to people in the region all the time, and I consult with my peers to try to help guide me to solve some of the problems that you mentioned. So, and it is really important to get people to understand that an investment in technology is a good investment. So the city has a struggle right now because the expenditures that we have to make and the needs that everybody have is really greater than the resources that we have to fulfill those things. And every year, very hard choices have to be made. Very, very hard choices have to be made. I don't envy the mayor. I don't envy the people above me who have to say yes or no to things. I want everybody to say yes to the things that I ask for. I know that's not realistic. But over time, gaining consensus and really showing people that $1 invested in technology will save $1.50 or generate $1.50 $1.50's worth of jobs or $1.10's worth of jobs or something like that. Terribly important case to make over and over as loudly as I can to everybody who will listen in every context I can. And that is victory. What does victory look like there? That's going to be incremental. That's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take several years for me to do.
I also wanted to hello? Hello? Okay. I also wanted to just echo the thanks to come and chat with us about some of the difficult challenges that we're facing. I'm one of those water bill frustrated folks who have to go through that process of appealing and stuff like that. What I was curious is if you had any recommendations around how we as a community can help you get some more of those kind of investments, kind of raise the bar, if you will, other than just having the media writing negative articles.
I think that the best thing to do for people that live in Baltimore who share the idea that we should take some of our scarce dollars and invest it in automation or invest a little bit in innovation or invest in ways to take processes that are currently paper-based and make them not paper-based and have more data. The best thing to do is to tell elected officials, to tell your council people, when you encounter people from the mayor's office, to express support for that. That's probably the best thing that you can do. So the water billing system issue is one that everybody, from the highest levels on down, is very concerned about, working as quickly as we can to fix it. The new system will come online, just as fast as humanly possible. It's an enormous amount of work because of the very large customer base that the city has, the city and the county, and the fact that we have to do sewage and water bills, and we have a consent decree. So all of these things kind of add to the complexity. It's not as simple as another water billing system project.
Okay, great. From Daniel?
So I think it's great to hear about getting the city sort of up to speed with best practices, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts about a way or means, or even if it's possible to even leapfrog, what some other cities are doing.
In some ways, we're actually doing that. So there's a lot of small victories that we're having. For example, in our infrastructure, we've re-architected the way we have servers, and we're opening a new data center. It's going to be a leased data center, but we're implementing something called fabric-based infrastructure that will make it really easy for us to manage things as components that lock into each other and can be provisioned very, very quickly. Virtual machines can be provisioned very, very quickly. Servers and routers will be able to be managed really seamlessly by one person. So there are instances where we are doing that. It's not all just me putting out fires. We just have to do more of that. We have to communicate that, and we have to pivot to that. There are some things that we're going to be doing I can't really talk about now, but we'll be doing soon with the police department that'll really help and be very innovative. And there are things that we're doing within management, things that we're doing with MOIT and within 911 and 311 that are going to be really innovative. So that spirit I have, and I'm trying to push out as aggressively as I can. But we also have issues, day-to-day operational issues, and soon we'll have them in a box, and they'll be under control, and we'll be able to spend more time on citizen engagement and business intelligence and our network and public-private partnerships, all things that I think are places where we can add unique value. We can do things that other people can't do.
I'm not there's any questions. Let me sort of jump in. I just want to make sure I understand one of the numbers you said. So did you say that Howard County spends has an IT budget that's 4 times greater than that of the Baltimore City?
Approximately, yes.
And what's the population size difference? It's like
I think they have 200,000 people in town.
Man, so they're getting basically 12x investment on a per resident basis. I mean, like coming from like outside the city, it's like one of those things where it's like I always feel like Baltimore City gets like the. It's like I can see why people are like, oh, I'm gonna move to the county because they get the lower crime and education and this and that. It's like IT is one of those things, and it almost seems I know I'm just complaining here, but it's like it almost seems unreasonable that a city with the size and the needs that Baltimore has 1/4 the resources to spend in IT when you know it's going to have a huge impact. So is there any way that the city can sort of leverage, can like lean on the IT richness of some of these other counties for the benefit of Baltimore City?
You know, that's a kind of a hobby of mine, trying to find ways to share infrastructure or share services, because I'm not convinced that everybody needs to reinvent the wheel or everybody needs to have everything. You know, what can we do that we excel at? What can somebody else do that they can excel at? Who's got the chocolate? Who's got the peanut butter? How do we blend them together? And that's a really important, idea. It's a really important concept, and in some cases it seems really obvious, but it's also a little bit of a heavy lift, because if you've got a very high functioning area and you're meeting your stakeholders' needs, you don't necessarily want to upset the apple cart by taking in a poor cousin, and you need to make sure that your capacity can match what the needs are, and then financially that'll work for you. So we're looking into that, and I hope to be able to do that. Internally within the city, there are a number of smaller IT departments that I'm going to be absorbing into MOIT. So internally, we're going to start doing that. And I've had a number of conversations about doing that externally. Yet nothing has come to fruition, but a very important concept and a very important idea, and something I believe really strongly in. I don't think there's any need for everybody to have everything. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me in this day and age.
So, and I guess one here from Andrew and then one from Howard here. He's a man with a pad.
Hey Chris, I just had a quick question about the bill that got proposed in City Council about a cell phone tower ban on school rooftops or on the tops of structures where educational activities are happening. I don't know if Moit was consulted at all about that. Just from some stuff that I've read, you know, having a cell phone tower in a school building isn't necessarily a health hazard, but it seems like it could be a lot of money in terms of moving infrastructure around if that actually got passed. I just don't know if Moit was talked to at all.
Yes, every time there's any kind of bill that's proposed that has anything to do with technology, I get a little memo saying, please write an analysis of it, and we do. And we did write an analysis of that particular piece of legislation, and I had a meeting with the council, and I'll be having more meetings with them about it. So it's just been proposed. It hasn't been voted on yet. They're in the process now of getting everybody's input on it, and there's a lot of moving pieces to that. So I personally believe the science that indicates that there's not a health hazard towards having those things if they're in compliance with the standards, with FCC standards and with other standards on it. But I cannot discount the fact that there's a large group of people that don't believe that, and their voice has to be heard in some way. So we are working to try to craft a middle path that will make everybody happy, but also not foreclose the possibility of me putting high-powered Wi-Fi gear on the top of rec centers or schools. So we're having a citywide Wi-Fi network where gear is on top of a school or a rec center. So, and I think we'll probably get there. But yes, that is something. Anytime there's any kind of IT-related legislation, they always consult our office.
Okay, one more. Howard?
Thank you very much for coming. I live in the city. What's the best way that we can contact Moit to be helpful? Do you have Twitter, LinkedIn?
We do.
Email?
We have Twitter, we have Facebook. I don't think we have LinkedIn, but we have Twitter, we have Facebook. I have my own Twitter feed. On our website, I think there's instructions on how to email us. So we're pretty accessible. We're pretty accessible.
I'm sorry, do you have a rep or someone who's actually reaching out and engaging on these different platforms? You know, are they under an umbrella like a social media representative who's sort of, you know, engaging the customers or putting out information on a lot of these things that you're doing? How are you guys actually handling that? Because people aren't using paper anymore.
So Daniel, who just stood up, and he's really tall, so it should be easy to see him. That's the person who does that on our behalf.
Yes, that's me. I checked the Facebook site, and we do have information on how to email us online, so please feel free to reach out. We'll get right back to you. We value community's input, obviously, and I couldn't have anything to do this, Ron, but this is another meeting at the end.
Okay. let me send them a Skype message. Okay, well, great. Then let's sort of wrap it up here. Maybe one more quick one. I did want to ask on the behalf of the city. I know there's a lot of us that are really interested in engaging with the city. Either maybe we want to provide services to the city, or maybe we just want to help the city. There's been a lot of like hackathons and startup weekends. I mean, is the city interested in perhaps not even necessarily as a cost thing? A lot of people are just hosting hackathons just for the sake of doing that. Hosting activities to engage with the IT community to directly perhaps innovate or come up with concepts or do stuff that's specifically for the city of Baltimore?
Well, the answer to that is yes, and we're in the middle of and like everything here, it takes 20 times longer than you would expect. But we have set aside money to fund a hackathon and an apps contest, and we have partners that are working with us to put that together. We're very interested in that. There are a number of other things that we're doing too around innovation, and we want people's input around that as well. So stay tuned. I did set aside money out of our budget for that, and hopefully we'll have an announcement fairly soon about how that's going to work, and hopefully it'll be a recurring thing. And we have other people who are helping us and other sponsors, and it'll hopefully be at a pretty high level and worth everyone's while to participate in.
Great. Can I say the best for last?
I don't know about that. I'm an almost lifelong resident of the city, and this has been a moment of great encouragement to me as a taxpayer, resident, a fan of Baltimore, and I wish that if there's anything I can ever do for you as a taxpayer, I'd certainly do it. Before I escaped from banking 25 years ago, I worked for a very large bank, which is an ancestor of the Bank of America. And I don't mean to represent a large bank as anywhere near as complex as a city government or even a neighborhood government. But we had silo-itis all over the place. And my boss, the head of operations, decided he was sick to death of the bad news inside the bank about nothing ever worked. The thing that worked, that got the silos almost forced to work together, was going to the customer, picking 5 or 6 or 7 service objectives. This is what we're going to deliver every day, and when we don't deliver it, we're going to be better than anybody else at fixing it, and it worked. They pulled 2,700 people together. They put $1 million on the bottom line of a bank that made $10 million out of zero revenue. I mean, we didn't generate any revenue in operations. What it did was it made all of that stuff between silos non-negotiable. Here are the objectives. This is what our customers have said they want, and then work backwards into the company to deliver that. It's a terribly complex, difficult, fun, wonderful thing to do. So if there's anything anybody can ever do to help you with that, give me a call.
Okay, great.
That's governance, and that's what's really hard, and thank you very much for letting me stand up here and blabber on an eternity. Hopefully you're all not.